Very few scenes just put chills down my spine like this scene that we saw from Mushoku Tensei Turning Point 2. It legitimately was just a work of art, and something that really just shows from frame by frame, if you just slow this down and look at what's going on here, just the sheer majesty of what the art and animation was doing for this scene, and just the emotion that was put into it to really just demonstrate the overall might of the Dragon God himself, but also the desperation within Ruijerd's face, and how he was making a stand, a life or death stand, against someone that legitimately just outscales him to just such a high degree. I have not been able to get this scene out of my head, honestly. I've been thinking about this for some reason for the past few days, and I wanted to sit down and really just analyze and break down just what makes this moment so magical, and why to this day I still get chills from it. And I think that this is one of the best demonstrations of just a character that outscales you to such a high degree. Just someone that is so overpowered, you can't even begin to process the level of strength because the gap is just that wide. We can put weird margins between the characters or just vague ones, but we can never truly comprehend just how far the gap is between these two characters. And I think what really reigns home this very scene is just the sudden attack. When Rudy turns around and he's like, oh, man God appears in my dreams, and he turns around all innocent, he sees a vision. And it's such a short frame. Like, I'm going frame by frame here. Like, I just want to look at these frames that were put into this. And it just shows the level of detail. Because an animator had to draw this frame by frame, background and all. And the fact that in that quick moment of a second, when Rudy turns around, he sees this image through his demon eye of just impending death as an arm goes straight through his chest. And you just see these different frames here. And in literally just nothingness, Ruijerd pulls him away and protects Rudy. And I think that this is a very important scene, because what this kind of showcases is just, once again, how strong-willed Ruijerd is, and how he will do anything to protect those he swore to protect, especially children, but also for him to stand up against someone like this that obviously even terrified him. He was scared stiff. He was literally fearful, and the only one that really could speak to the Dragon God himself was Rudy, because obviously he was reincarnated. And despite all this, Ruijerd overcomes his fear, quick thinking, he literally grabs Rudy, shoves him back, and as he shoves him back, he gets in front of the Dragon God's attack, and he blocks it. And in these brief little impact frames and all that, you get to just see how the sheer shock of all the characters. They don't even know what's going on. And I love the attention to detail with just how Ruijerd's face looks here. Like, the individuals that were really animating this really put a lot of care and attention to just the way the eyes were shown, to just how fearful everybody was in this moment. Like, you can literally see the stress to the sweat on Ruijerd's face, his eyes showing a look of absolute terror, that in this moment he realizes he's probably not going to walk out of this fight alive. That's literally his mindset when he even decided to dare block an attack like this, but because of his commitment and what he believes in, he did it willingly, which really just says a lot about his character in this brief moment. But then, as soon as this begins, and Rudy doesn't really have much time to really process, and we get a little understanding of why this happened, it's because apparently Rudy is an apostle of the Man God, and obviously the Dragon God wants to get rid of him. And in this moment, this is something that's very important about this dialogue, and I think this kind of flies over a lot of people's heads, and it really says a lot about the character. That, once again, Ruijerd's very, I guess, motivation, what he's done to this very point within the story, is literally tell the characters, like, I will travel with you and take you to where you need to go, even if it costs me my life. Basically, he wants to take them to their destination, and he feels like he is the strongest person to be able to do that. He believes in himself. And for him to even say these words like, run, Rudus, and then, like, just tell them to flee, it's basically him saying, like, I probably am not going to walk out of this. I'm dead. And obviously, we know the outcome, that they survived this, But in this moment, it shows a lot about his character. He's like, I can't protect you anymore. You gotta go. Like, you both need to run and get out of here. And I think this really just, like, these frames here, like, I want to point this out, is that when we first encounter this scene, even if you're a light novel reader or an anime only, whatever, you know, Ruijerd at this point in time of the story was the strongest entity that we've seen from the story. Like, we've heard stories of this great demon and all that caused catastrophe and all these different historical stories, and seeing is believing. But at this point in time throughout the story, you know, for 10 plus episodes, Ruijerd was built up as this monster, this entity that is the dead end of your life. If you encounter him, you're dead. And there's just no coming out of that fight. And he's always been this just overwhelming character up to this very point. And so anyone watching this for the first time is like, wow, so we're seeing a man that even Ruijerd himself is scared of. And him pinned up against someone, you thought that he might at the very least be able to hold him off long enough for Rudy to be able to escape, for Eris to be able to escape. And I want you to count the seconds here, okay? As you can see here, 18 seconds is on this video, but I want to play it. I just want you to count how long this actual fight goes. And it really just demonstrates the level of strength that goes on within this moment. It showcases just how overwhelmingly strong the Dragon God was, and that no matter what, there was just no comparison. And we got to factor in with this moment as well, that, you know, this is probably sped up. Like, you know, if we think about the real events of what's going on here, you know, this is probably only like 3 seconds of time until, you know, he's knocked out. And I think that's a big detail here. Is like, literally, it's like 15 seconds of real footage, like 15 or so seconds of real footage of Ruijerd fighting here. And amongst this brief fight, he's knocked out. So if we factor in just the look of terror and stun, and then, you know, him flying over Rudy and all that, Rudy not even being able to compose himself, we can assume this fight was maybe 3 seconds. If we're looking at just speed amplification of how it was. That's how quick the fight actually was. But the fight felt forever just because of just what was really happening within this scene. And there's just so many subtle moments that I think makes this incredible. Like, I want to point this out, okay? I want to point out, like, as, you know, this scene happens and obviously the fight begins, and even though it's very brief, we see, you know, Ruijerd, he tries to fight. He's trying to attack, you know, the Dragon God himself. And as he swings, you literally see just with just his hands, he is parrying Ruijerd with his spear, his iconic spear. He's parrying him, and with each parry, he gains ground on him, and even pushes Ruijerd back, where he has to gain ground once again, and you see him instantly in that moment, without fear, even though he realizes it's probably hopeless, he charges in, and I just love these frames, and just how you can see the detail of it. Just look at the eyes of determination. He is not backing down. He's like a wild animal in this moment. And as he continues to get closer, he realizes, like, he has to keep going. And in that moment, once again, you see a parry. And I want to point something out, okay? The Dragon God is capable of pretty much all techniques. He's broken, basically. And in this moment, if you look at what technique he's actually using the Water God style, aka a fighting style, a sword fighting style at that, meant for defense. And he's using defense against Ruijerd while being able to create ground. Like, look at this. There's very subtle moments here throughout these frames where you just see him push away. He's just parrying Ruijerd with his bare hands. Just parrying him, and as the fight goes on, like this, you see him fist. He pushes him back once again. He's getting more ground on him. And then eventually he puts a hit on his shoulder to break his balance, because obviously, you know, Ruijerd is using his shoulder to thrust continuously with his weapon. And then, you know, as you saw here with the previous frame as well, he hits him in the side to kind of push him off balance once again, because he's trying to knock him out. And even despite already at this point basically taking 2 attacks, he doesn't give in, but he is losing ground. And once again, this is a span of just a few seconds. Just in a few seconds of real footage, all of this is going on as he's pushed back. And I love how the background, even despite all of this, you can just see the snow moving in the background. Like, look at this. Like, I want to show the sheer craziness of this. Like, even though it's very subtle, you just see the snow moving around with the background and all that. And then this frame of just zooming in but also circling around, the desperate struggle and just the absolute might of the parries and stuff is pretty just it speaks for itself. It's actually just ridiculous. The animators really went hard for this scene. Even each frame that obviously wouldn't normally be noticed by the common eye unless you're doing what I'm doing right now actually looks really on point and incredible. And I just think that this really just goes to show just the difference of power. Like, I like this as well. I absolutely love this frame when he grabs Ruijerd's spear. Like, look at this. So he literally grabs it. He finally gained some ground, grabbed his spear, and he holds it. And as he pushes it back while holding it, he comes in for a actual thrust, and he knocks Ruijerd away by hitting him in the stomach. And I think that it's just such a subtle moment. I wonder how many people did not actually catch this moment where he actually grabbed the spear and pushed it away. That's what makes that insane. And then also the eyes. Well, I love this dragon eye. And so as he does that, because he knows Ruijerd hasn't fully lost, he makes sure he falls up. He hits him. Like, look at this. He hits him in the side here. Like, right in the side of the neck. And then as he hits him in the side of the neck, he hits him in the side of the head, once again push him off balance, and then this is the end for Ruijerd. You know, he is knocked out. And like I said, just the overwhelming structure of this fight is just, it's jaw-dropping. Now, if there is something else I want to talk about when it comes to this, is that it really just goes to show, once again, how scary this scene was. Because Rudy, like I said, probably in real time within the world, about 3 or 4 seconds probably have passed. And he's processing all of this in his head. And then his demon eye is active, trying to keep, control of what's going on here. And just seeing a man that he's respected and traveled with for like over a year now just down like this is just, it's terrifying. And as you know, the background really homes in just the scariness of this, the isolation, the hopelessness. You know, he doesn't really have time much to process this, because as soon as he is looking at it, he looks at the Dragon God right in front of him. He's somehow already in front of him, looking down at him. And it's just, it's scary to see. Because he realizes if a man could do that to Ruijerd in such a point-blank moment, like in that close proximity, what chance does Rudy have? Because obviously he's a mage, and you know, he's already close, so he's already doomed. But would he even be able to fight back if he was at an extreme distance against this man? And the fact that he was able to close that distance that quickly is just what makes this very unnerving, and he realizes that there's just nothing he can do. And like I said, I think it really just shows fear to such a high degree. Like, it's a very realistic depiction of it. And as soon as he sees the hand raise up, Rudy looks with his demon eye, and he sees his end coming. And like in that moment, you could just see multiple visions. I want to point this out. You see multiple visions as just Rudy is dead, different ways, etc., as he's bleeding. And then he's like, it's already happened, and he's like, what's going on here? Grabbing his body, trying to process what he just saw with his demon eye, realizing he's already dead, but he's not dead. And then within that moment, we know what happens. I think this is a legitimately just incredible moment. I've not been able to get this off my mind. I've been really wanting to talk about this because of just how spectacular it is. And you know what really makes this scene so great to me is just the music as well. I'm going to play this brief moment with music. I'm not going to play it for too long, but I think the music also really just amplifies the desperation of this scene. And I'm going to let you listen to it. It's just such a... Oh my goodness, it's so good. But, yeah, I wanted to talk about this. It's been on my mind. Seriously, one of the best, like, moments of just, like, hopelessness I've seen in an anime. It gives me chills every time I see it. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.